the courthouse doors swung open, and a man in a tailored gray suit walked in, leaning on a single crutch. Yet every eye in the room turned toward him with something close to fear. The powerful men seated at the opposing table, men who had spent millions trying to bury him, suddenly could not look him in the eye. No one in the gallery understood why a crippled man commanded so much silence, so much respect, so much dread. Then he opened his folder, looked directly at the corporation that had destroyed hundreds of lives for profit, and said the words that would end their empire forever. 12 years earlier, nobody would have believed this broken boy from the streets would one day bring giants to their knees. If you believe that broken people can rebuild broken systems, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so we can keep telling stories worth remembering. 12 years earlier, Daniel Ford was a quiet accountant living a simple, disciplined life in a small American town. He had no wife, no children, and no family left after losing his parents young. Work filled his days, and silence filled his nights. He believed his life would stay small and ordinary forever. One cold evening, while walking home from the office, Daniel noticed a boy dragging himself across the pavement outside an old bus station. The child could not have been older than 8. His legs were twisted beneath him, weakened by a birth condition no one had ever treated. His clothes were torn, his hands were raw from crawling on concrete, and his eyes held the kind of exhaustion no child should ever carry. People stepped around him like he was invisible. Some glanced and quickly looked away, afraid of what helping him might cost them. Daniel could have kept walking. Instead, he stopped, knelt down, and asked the boy his name. The boy said his name was Micah. He had been abandoned outside a hospital as an infant because his condition scared away every family willing to adopt him. He had spent his life bouncing between overcrowded shelters and cruel foster homes that saw him only as a burden. He told Daniel that people always promised to come back for him, and none of them ever did. Something inside Daniel shifted that night, a feeling he could not explain and did not try to resist. He carried Micah to a nearby clinic, paid for his treatment out of his own savings, and refused to leave until doctors confirmed the boy was stable. Then Daniel did something no one expected from a man who had always kept his life small and private. He began the long legal process of adoption, determined to give this boy the one thing he had never had, a reason to believe someone would actually stay. The process was slow and painful. Agencies doubted a single man could care for a disabled child. Doctors warned that Micah would need expensive surgeries for years to come. Neighbors whispered that Daniel was making a mistake he could not afford. Daniel ignored every warning. He worked overtime, sold his car, and moved into a smaller apartment just to cover medical bills. He learned how to carry Micah up staircases, how to build ramps with his own hands, and how to sit beside a hospital bed through nights that never seemed to end. Slowly, painfully, Micah began to trust him. He stopped flinching at raised voices. He stopped hiding food. He started calling Daniel Dad for the first time, quietly, almost like he was testing whether the word was allowed. Daniel wept the first time he heard it, and he promised himself that no matter what the future held, he would never let this boy feel unwanted again. Years passed, and Micah refused to let his condition define him. Despite countless surgeries and painful physical therapy, he pushed himself harder than doctors thought possible, spending hours in libraries poring over case files most adults would find exhausting. Teachers were stunned by his focus. Daniel quietly built a modest but respected financial consulting firm, the kind of business built on honesty rather than aggressive ambition. He never sought wealth. He only wanted stability for the son the world had once discarded. But stability, as Daniel would soon learn, was about to be threatened by people far more powerful and far more ruthless than he ever imagined. A massive corporation was watching his growing client list, and they had already decided exactly how they intended to destroy him. The corporation was called Halbrook Dynamics, a sprawling financial conglomerate known for swallowing small firms whole and erasing anyone who refused to sell. Daniel's firm had earned a small but loyal client base by promising honesty in an industry built on hidden fees and quiet manipulation. Halbrook wanted his clients his contracts, and his reputation. And when Daniel refused their buyout offers, they decided to take everything by force instead. Anonymous tips triggered sudden audits. Fabricated documents suggested Daniel had mishandled client funds. Reporters paid by unknown sources published articles hinting at fraud without a single verified fact. Longtime clients panicked and pulled their accounts. Within months, the same man who had rebuilt his entire life around honesty was being accused of the one thing he had never done: deceiving the people who trusted him. Lawyers told him fighting back could take years and money he no longer had. Friends quietly urged him to settle and disappear. Daniel refused because somewhere in a university 2 states away, his son was watching everything unfold, and Micah was done staying silent. Micah had grown into a brilliant, disciplined law student, graduating at the top of his class despite years of surgeries that never fully stopped. He had built a reputation for something rare in his field: patience paired with relentless precision. When he learned what was happening to his father, he did not panic and he did not rage. He requested every financial record connected to the case, every contract, every email, every internal memo he could legally access. Night after night, he sat with stacks of paperwork balanced across his lap, cross-referencing dates and signatures until patterns began to emerge from the chaos. Buried inside years of internal Halbrook communications, he found what investigators had somehow missed: a coordinated pattern of falsified reports specifically designed to frame small firms like his father's before forcing them into bankruptcy and buying their client lists for almost nothing. Daniel was never their first target. He was simply the latest name on a long list of ruined lives. The morning of the hearing, reporters lined the courthouse steps, expecting a quiet, predictable ending. Another small business owner crushed beneath a corporate giant. Daniel walked in slowly, leaning on his crutch, carrying a single folder of records that suddenly felt painfully small against Halbrook's army of lawyers. Their legal team spoke with practiced confidence, presenting charts designed to overwhelm rather than clarify. For several minutes, it seemed like everything Daniel built was about to collapse in front of him. Then the courtroom doors opened, and Micah walked in, moving carefully but steadily, carrying a leather briefcase and 12 years of quiet gratitude behind his eyes. Judges granted him permission to present new evidence, and one by one, he dismantled Halbrook's entire case. Altered dates exposed forged reports. Hidden transactions revealed secret payments made to silence former employees. Internal messages proved executives had personally approved the scheme meant to destroy men like his father. The courtroom shifted completely. Confidence drained from the opposing lawyers' faces. Jurors leaned forward, stunned by the depth of the evidence. Reporters who had arrived expecting a simple defeat now scrambled to keep up with a story far bigger than they imagined. Micah never raised his voice. He never needed to. Every fact he presented carried the weight of truth. Daniel had spent 12 years teaching him to protect. When the judge finally spoke, every charge against Daniel was dismissed, and federal investigators opened a criminal inquiry into Halbrook Dynamics itself. Within weeks, top executives resigned in disgrace, and the corporation that had crushed so many small businesses finally faced consequences of its own making. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded Micah, asking why he risked his future for one small accountant instead of chasing a career at any elite firm in the country. He simply said that long before anyone respected Daniel Ford, Daniel had knelt beside a crippled boy nobody wanted and decided to stay. Daniel listened with tears sliding silently down his face, realizing his greatest achievement was never the business he built, but the choice he made on an ordinary night when no one was watching. Months later, Micah opened a legal foundation offering free representation to disabled children in foster care, fully funded by his father, built entirely on the belief that every forgotten child deserves someone who stays. Their story proved something rare and unforgettable, that true family is never about blood, but about the courage to choose someone when the world has already walked away. And that kindness, however small it once seemed, can grow into justice powerful enough to shake an empire.